Before we get started, I'm going to throw up some plugins on screen through Runelite that you can go ahead and pause the video and copy all the settings for. I highly recommend using Runelite if you don't already, as well as the plugin hub. It'll make the entire Gauntlet experience just that much easier and laid back. And to emphasize, these are really recommendations at the end of the day. If you try these out and you're not a big fan of the plugins or some of the settings, you can tweak it to your desire. These are settings and plugins that really helped me personally when I first started out in the Gauntlet. All right, well, it's time to go over some in-game settings and personal recommendations of mine. If you go to all settings and you type in key, your key binds will show up. From here, you're gonna wanna bind at least your inventory and your prayer swaps to whatever F key you desire. If you're like me and have a compact keyboard, 60%, or maybe you just don't like using your F keys, there is a plugin called key remapping that will allow you to bind your F keys to whatever alternative keys on your keyboard that you want. For example, I can use A and D on my keyboard to switch in between prayers. For me, that feels more natural, more fluid than having to use F keys in general. Some people bind their F keys to their mouse. It's like whatever you prefer, but mine is A and D. Also, with the plugin, you'll have to press enter to actually chat to people. And if your plugin doesn't work for whatever reason, you may have pressed enter at some point, and now your key binds are in your chat, right? So then you just press enter again, and now your key binds work. So that's pretty much how the plugin works. For me, worked wonders. Next is actual settings in your prayer book. What made prayer switching so much easier for me was I went over to the prayer book and I enabled prayer reordering. From here, I was able to move all the prayers that were relevant to me during the fight, which is my overhead protection prayers, piety, deadeye, and vigor, all to one corner, respectively next to each other, right? So melee goes with melee, range goes with range, magic goes with magic. And then I hid all the other prayers that were not relevant to me. And then I went ahead and disabled prayer reordering. And so this leaves me with just these 6 prayers, and that's all I need. So that alleviates a lot of clutter, a lot of confusion, a lot of trying to figure out what goes where. It is so easy to just go in between these two. And from there, I promise you, it'll make everything a lot less confusing. Now, these are my stats. I'm not a max player. My stats were even lower when I started this. You want at least 80 to 80 plus to start the Gauntlet, in all honesty. But if you want the most chill experience, obviously max stats or 90 plus would do a lot better here. But again, it's completely doable. It's not a huge deal. As long as you're 80 plus, you shouldn't be struggling that much, in all honesty. And of course, there's prerequisites, right? You need to have completed Song of the Elves and have done at least one completion of the normal Gauntlet. Another thing is, for me, and this is just a personal preference, I like playing on resizable mode because it gives me more screen real estate and I don't feel as claustrophobic or cluttered. Whereas in fixed mode, I kind of feel that way. There's a lot of things on my screen. There's a lot of things going on, as well as I like using stretched mode, because if you don't use stretch mode, depending on the resolution of your screen, you're going to be dragging your mouse farther across your screen than if you just had stretched mode, and you can change it in the settings to whatever scaling you want. And then also I can sometimes use the Alt key and move my inventory around. So sometimes when I'm in a fight, my inventory is like right there. The less mouse traveling, the better. You know what I mean? The less I have to travel my mouse across the screen to swap prayers or eat food, the easier it's going to be, honestly. A few more plugins are tile indicators. So True Tile for you, so you can compare that to the True Tiles from the Tornadoes. Makes it a lot easier to manage your positioning during the fight, as well as NPC indicators, so you can tag Hunllef so you don't accidentally yellow click him and stand underneath him and he stomps you out. You'll know his hitbox the entire time. Anything that makes it easier where you don't even have to think about it, hey, sign me up. Okay, so we're going to be doing tier 2 prep with our Gauntlet run since we're beginners here. Tier 2 prep is ideal for a lot of reasons. One being because of the update, it's a lot easier and faster to do now. Another reason is during the fight, you have more room for error. You're not taking as much chip damage. You don't get hurt as much if you get on a hot tile or hit by a tornado. So it gives you more room to breathe and situate yourself, and you don't have to panic nearly as much. Now, you could still get really messed up during a fight, don't get me wrong, but this makes it easier for you to recover during a fight, and you don't need as much food towards the end. So before we do our actual run, there's a few things I have to go over. So I'm going to enter the gauntlet. And what we're going to do is look at what side of Hunllef we spawn on each gauntlet run. In this instance, we are on the left side. You can spawn on either the north, south, east, or west side of Hunllef. It's completely random. But if we were to continue our run, since we're on the left side of them, we're going to continue our path to the left or west because it'll bring us closer to a guaranteed demi boss spawn. Because of the update, each room across from Hunllef in each direction will spawn a guaranteed demi boss. So north, south, east, or west in a straight line will have a guaranteed demi boss spawn, and all the rooms on the outer edges of the gauntlet have a potential to spawn a demi boss as well. All right, now that we got that out of the way, we're going to start our actual run. Okay, so we spawned west. We're going to push west. We're going to break prep up into 3 phases. First phase is acquiring our first weapon frame, which we will get from any of these low tier NPCs, spider, bat, or rat. And you get a weapon frame drop guaranteed on the first kill, which is nice. Next thing you want to do is get 50 shards. And that'll allow you to tune your first weapon, which will be a staff always. We're going to focus on just a staff and a bow. We're going to ignore a halberd. So we're going to click it twice. Bam. And now we're going to beeline straight to a demi-boss. You can get crystal shards from harvesting resources or killing NPCs. Ideally, I like to do it from resources. But in this situation, we did NPCs because it was the only thing in the room. Protect from magic. Stand on the outside of the room. Go in. Attack. Now, a dragon is ideal because a dragon drops the magic weapon upgrade for a staff. And we want to run into, ideally, a dragon and a dark beast. But if we run into a bear, that's fine. The bear can drop a spike. We can use that spike to grind up for 80 shards. We're going to need quite a bit of shards, around 500 for tier 2 prep. With the demi-boss, they'll always drop a guaranteed weapon frame, and we need 2. So that's our final weapon frame for the prep. We don't need any more. What's nice about demi-bosses as well is they never drop duplicate upgrades, so at most you only have to kill 3. And as for resources, we're going to need to find 3 unique resources to upgrade our gear. Out of those 3, we need 7 of each, and the plugin will highlight green, red, and white for the resources that you need for your armor. And when you're done with one of the resources, it will unhighlight. So for us, we collected 7, so it unhighlighted for us. That tells us that we don't need any more of that resource. Here's a second resource, which is wood cutting, so bark. And since inventory management isn't a big deal this time around, we can do some fishing while we're in phase 2, right? Resources are stackable. We don't have to drop them off at the bowl anymore like we used to. So that means in situations like this, we don't have to do nearly as much scouting for fish at the end during phase 3. Phase 2 is the longest phase, right? The whole point in phase 2 is getting to your upgrades as soon as possible. That means killing your demi-bosses as soon as possible. It also means getting all the shards that you need and all the resources that you need, including the herbs. We want to be mindful and stay to the outer edges because we are still scouting for our last demi-boss, and we have to remember that all the outer rooms now have a chance to spawn a demi-boss. Boom, there we go. Oops. All right, we got a second dragon. So hopefully we get lucky and it drops a bowstring, but it could drop a spike. Just really depends. It's 50-50. And then I'm getting tag teamed. Oh my goodness, I'm getting... he would have been dead by now. What's going on? Okay. Oh, we got a spike. Whatever. Again, we can grind that up. God, jeez, that took like 10 years off my life. All right. We're fine. We're fine. Lock in. It's all right. You have to overcome adversity when you're in a gauntlet. Each gauntlet's going to be a different experience than the last. You know what I mean? So just got to lock in, baby. It's lock in. All right. We got... there's finally... we found a herb. What do we need? We need a bowstring. Let me check this room. Hold on. Nothing. Okay, that's fine. All right. Perfect. I will be cutting the time close because I am talking a lot and I'm not, you know, like concentrated. But if you're concentrated and you once you get experience with this, or you'll have probably like 2 minutes left to spare, and you've got all your fish and everything, and you won't need as much food. So when you're first starting off, you're gonna want close to a full inventory, which could put you in a tricky situation. So just try to get as much food as you can without screwing yourself on time. You know what I mean? So we got our last upgrade. We got plenty of shards now. We're gonna pick these final herbs. Still got 2 minutes. What do we still need? Oh, we don't need any more of our materials, so we can drop our tools now. Our axe and our pickaxe, we don't need anymore. So when you get enough bark, 7 ore, you can drop your pickaxe and your axe. We're gonna make our way back to the home base. We got all 3 herbs, we got both of our upgrades, and we have all the crystal shards. So we can go ahead and cook whatever fish is in our inventory with 2 minutes left to spare and drop everything, or not everything, but drop all the fish off at the range. We're going to go ahead and go to the bowl, and we're going to make our armor. So we're going to click on it twice, upgrade our staff, perfect our bow, make 3 vials, and then we're going to crush our shards. We're going to fill our vials at the pump or a fishing spot. We're going to use our herbs on the vials, and then our dust to make the potions, equipped our armor. Now we're going to do phase 3, where we're scouting for a full inventory of fish. Now again, once you get good enough at this, you won't even need more than 12. Therefore, you don't have to put yourself in a position where you're scrambling to find enough fishing spots, because inevitably you're going to run into some crappy RNG that could run you really short on time, to be honest with you. A couple things to note that I haven't really touched on yet is that if you are struggling to find fish, you can find at least 1 room with 3 fishing spots in any of the rooms surrounding Hunllef. Additionally, a nice little tip for when you're going scouting for your resources is staying within the rooms surrounding your home base in Hunllef at first. Now, this is a nice practice as you're beginning, but with tier 2, sometimes you may inevitably have to fan out into other rooms, but a nice little practice would be prioritizing those neighboring rooms first. But once you got all your fish, teleport back to the range, cook everything in your inventory, and drop everything except your food, potions, and weapon. And then that's when we get ready for the fight. So we can drop all this, keep the potions, pick up all your paddlefish, and then we can start the Hunllef fight, baby. First thing you're going to want to do before entering the fight is protect from ranged. Hunllef will always attack you with ranged first. You're going to want to make sure you have your sound on for this fight, because every 4 attacks it will switch attack styles. Once you hear that, go ahead and switch to protect from magic. Hunllef will only ever attack you with magic or ranged. It's only when you get underneath him, he will stomp you out with melee. So you can be right next to him the whole fight and he will not hit you with melee. Also, he always alternates attacks. So if he's attacking with ranged, he will always attack you with magic after he switches attack styles, so on and so forth. It's always going to be ranged magic, ranged magic, ranged magic. Another attack that Hunllef will do is they'll shoot a purple or pink ball at you, which will disable your prayers. Hunllef only does that while he's attacking with magic, okay? That means most of the time you want to protect from magic after immediately being hit with that attack. There is one circumstance where you wouldn't do that, and that's when it hits you with that purple attack and then switches attack styles. Then you want to protect from ranged instead. So listen out and pay attention to see if it switches attack styles on you right after shooting you with that attack. Now, every 6 attacks that you land on Hunllef, it will switch its overhead prayers. So you want to keep your eye out for its overhead prayers so that you are actually attacking it correctly. You'll definitely know when you're not doing any damage to it. At some point you'll figure it out, but kind of try to keep that in mind throughout the fight to check for its overhead prayers. Okay, so now that we got the core mechanics out of the way, it's time to talk about the hot tiles and tornadoes. Hunllef has 3 phases. Every 1/3 of health that you knock off will enter a new phase. So you have around 330 HP between each phases. And with that comes faster moving tiles and more tornadoes, okay? Now, it's okay to be on the hot tiles as long as they're red. You have a few seconds to work your way off of them before they heat up to orange, and that's when it does the damage, okay? So don't sweat it if you are accidentally on a hot tile, because they will shift as you move around and dodge the tornadoes. You have time. Now, your positioning is very important in this fight. For me, what's worked the best is I stay center as much as possible. Now, obviously, if there's hot tiles in the middle, I'm not going to step on them, but I'm going to center myself in the room as much as possible. And the reason I do this is because when he does the tornado phase, it makes it so much easier to get them compiled together, and then I can fan out into the corners of the rooms, and I'll give you a demonstration of that. When he stomps, he's going to summon tornadoes. As you see, I'm in the center. I let him gravitate towards me, and then I fan out and stick to the corners of the rooms as much as possible. Sometimes as you're pathing, hot tiles will form there, and sometimes you get hit. It's not a big deal. It's part of the process. Don't panic, just recover. Get your pathing right. Try to keep your clicks 3 or 4 tiles ahead of you. Try not to click all the way across the room when pathing, because the shorter clicks are going to allow you to maneuver the hot tiles and tornadoes easier. Also, once you're done with the tornadoes, try and center yourself in the room like I am right here. And again, so once he spawns tornadoes, it's going to be a lot easier for you to manage them. And again, what really helps me when I'm juggling 30 things at once, right? I'm dodging the hot tiles. I got tornadoes coming after me. It's shooting my prayers off with this purple ball attack, right? Having that audio cue allows me to not have to look at Hunllef and prioritize my positioning, not hitting the hot tiles and not getting stacked up by the tornadoes. So that's why, to me, that audio, having your audio on, is essential, and is going to make it a lot easier for you to multitask all the crazy things happening at once during this fight. I also like to move my camera to where it's at a top-down angle, because for me, it's a lot easier to see the pathing of those tornadoes. Makes it a lot easier to manage and see overall. So go ahead and try that method, see if that works out for you. I think that's a neat little trick for me. The only thing you really can't control throughout this whole fight is the hot tiles until you get to the final phase. If you look on my screen, I have highlighted green tiles. Those are safe spots that you can stand on during phase 3 where you'll never get hit by the hot tiles. So if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed in between tornado phases, you can stand there once you get him down to about 1/3 of his health, and you'll never have to manage the hot tiles. The thing is, though, once the tornadoes spawn, it can sometimes leave you in an awkward position, because one of the tornadoes may spawn closer to you than usual, and that can cause you to panic, right? You might get hit, you'll start clicking and panicking, and it could just snowball, right? The reason I say stay in the center as much as possible, even during phase 3, is simply because of the tornado mechanic, right? That is the one thing that people struggle with the most. And if that's something that you find yourself struggling with as well, I would advise at least trying to keep yourself in the middle of the room throughout the entire fight as much as possible, and just practice with the tornadoes. All right. The green tiles are a nice little tool you can use to kind of reacclimate yourself during the fight, get yourself situated, so you don't have to multitask as much. But again, sometimes it can leave you kind of in a weird place, right? A few other things to note is, when you're learning, do not try to attack Hunllef while you're dodging these tornadoes. Just practice your positioning and your pathing before you even attempt to try doing damage during the tornado phases, because you can get stacked out pretty easy. Another thing is, if you can help it, try not to eat while attacking Hunllef. Only when you're dodging the tornadoes and the tiles, that's when you should eat, right? Because you want to fixate on surviving, and the best way to do that is dodging the tornadoes, eating your food, not attacking Hunllef until you feel comfortable, get yourself positioned, and then going for the kill. Another little trick that may help you with the tornadoes and hot tiles throughout the entire fight is waiting for Hunllef to get into a corner of a room before entering. So a lot of the times people will just enter the room and he'll be dead center, and that sometimes can be more difficult on you later on when you're trying to solve your pathing with the tornadoes and the hot tiles. Because remember, you want to stay as centered as possible, and that's going to allow for the tornadoes to gravitate towards you and make it so much easier for you to fan out and dodge them, right? If Hunllef claims the center, that means when the tornadoes do spawn, you'll have less time to do DPS. If you've noticed, when you're centered, you have a couple of seconds to keep attacking Hunllef and do damage before you have to move. Whereas when you're awkwardly more on the outskirts of the room and the tornadoes do spawn, you're going to have to scramble a lot faster to get into better positioning, which means less damage and more hesitating. So in the end, it's not necessary, but since we're beginners, you're new to this, that's going to help you a lot, I promise, especially with tornadoes. And that's pretty much it, guys, right? It's going to take a lot of trial and error. There's only so much a video can do, because at the end of the day, you will inevitably have to learn how to manage multitasking and doing good under pressure. And that took me a while to do personally. I died quite a bit until I got the hang of it, right? So don't feel discouraged. This is some of the harder piece of content in the game, and a lot of people struggle with it. Once it clicks, and it will, because I was convinced it never would, but when it did, it felt amazing, and it gets so much easier. Now, I really don't even have to do much thinking. It's all second nature to me. And you'll get to the point where you can honestly like kind of watch shows and talk to people while doing prep in the fight. It really does get that easy. Well, I hope this guy's helped you out with the corrupted gauntlet. Leave a comment in the comment section below if it did. If it didn't, hey, you know what? I did my best, okay? I tried. Catch you in the next one.